I am a hospice nurse yesterday. A dying man asked me to pretend to be his ex-wife for 5 minutes. I've been a hospice nurse for 12 years. Death doesn't shock me anymore. Parent, I held hundreds of hands as they've grown cold, whispered comfort to failing ears, and watched thousands of final breaths. But last Tuesday, I experienced something that broke through my professional armor. Thomas was 68, terminal lung cancer, estimated 2 days left. His chart noted no family contacts. Parent, those 3 words that always make my heart sink. No one should die alone. When I entered his room for the evening check, his eyes were clearer than they'd been in days. Sometimes the dying rally briefly before the end. Parent, we call it terminal lucidity. It's like a final gift. Panned a chance to say what needs saying. Rebecca, he whispered, staring at me intently. No, Thomas, I am Elaine, your nurse, I corrected gently. Used to confusion in terminal patients. He shook his head slightly. I know who you are, but I need you to be Rebecca, just for 5 minutes. Something in his voice, urgency mixed with clarity. Perrin made me pause. This wasn't confusion. This was a request. Rebecca was your wife? I asked softly, checking his file again. No spouse listed ex-wife 30 years ago. His breathing was labored, but his eyes remained focused. Here is something I need to say to her before I go. Please, I've bent many rules in hospice care. Sometimes compassion outweighs protocol. I pulled a chair close to his bed. What would you like to tell Rebecca? I asked. His eyes filled with tears. Rebecca, he began, looking directly at me. I've practiced this speech for decades. Funny how it takes dying to find the courage. I nodded, giving him permission to continue. I am sorry I wasn't brave enough to fight for us. When you miscarried our daughter, I didn't know how to handle your grief and mine. So I ran. I buried myself in work, in drinking, in anything but facing what we'd lost together. His hand found mine, gripping with surprising strength. You deserved better than my silence. You deserved a partner who could cry with you instead of hiding from pain. By the time I understood that you had built a new life without me, a tear slid down his cheek. I saw you once about 15 years ago, at that quistery on Maple Street. You were laughing with a little girl, our granddaughter, I guess. You looked happy. I wanted to approach you, but what right did I have to interrupt your joy? His breathing became more labored, but he continued. I never were married, never wanted to. You were the love of my life and my biggest regret. I hope you had the beautiful life you deserved. I hope someone held you when you cried. He closed his eyes briefly, gathering strength. That's all. That's what I needed to say. Thank you for listening, Rebecca. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, holding the hand of a man who had carried these words for 30 years. In that moment, I wasn't just playing a role, Pernton. I felt the weight of being someone's last chance at peace. I forgive you, Thomas. I whispered, the words coming naturally. And I was happy. I had a good life. His eyes met mine, filled with gratitude. Thank you, he whispered. Thomas died at 3:17 the next morning. I was there holding his hand after my shift. I did something I've never done before. I looked up his ex-wife, Rebecca Martin, now Rebecca Collins, living just 20 miles away. I debated for days whether to contact her, whether Thomas's words were meant to reach her, or if they were simply his way of finding peace. In the end, I wrote her a letter, Perned, not sharing Thomas's exact words, but letting her know he had spoken of her with love and regret in his final hours. 3 weeks later, a small bouquet arrived at the hospice center with a note. Thank you for being his Rebecca when I couldn't be. Some wounds need closing even after 30 years. We think closure comes from grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes of borrowed identity in a quiet room, giving voice to words carried too long. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for the dying isn't medical at all. It's simply becoming who they need us to be, so they can say what needs saying before the silence comes.